While playing 2 full chapters of A Plague Tale Requiem, I felt fully immersed in the harrowing world first established in developer Asobo Studios' original game, A Plague Tale Innocence. The emotive storytelling, engaging mix of puzzle and stealth gameplay, and yes, truckloads of rats still remain, but what impressed me most were the steps forward that the sequel appears to be taking in all of the above areas. With much more involved combat systems and a smarter approach to stealth, there looks set to be a lot of fun to be had, amongst all the blood, rats and tears.
I don't know what's happening to me, Lucas. I feel my mind going.
Requiem picks up 6 months after the events of Innocence, with siblings Amicia and Hugo looking to put the horrors of their first adventure in 14th century France behind them. If the original Plague Tale was centred on the loss of innocence for the Darun children, then the sequel is about them wrestling with the guilt that comes with their actions. The demise of each enemy soldier, and there were quite a few in the short section I played, that comes between Amicia and her objective weighs heavily on her mind. This isn't too dissimilar from her reaction to killing in the first game, but this time around, there are just more dimensions to Amicia with a greater range of emotions expressed, namely, anger. Halfway through my time with Requiem, rage overcame Amicia, showing her in a completely different light than we'd seen before. It was a display of pure violence unseen before in A Plague Tale, but what made it stick in the memory so strongly was the complete lack of remorse on Amicia's part, who snarled as each rock snapped through the air.
I'll teach you to kill my men.
What is wrong with me?
This newfound acceptance for what she believes is a necessary course of action is reflected in the new tools at her disposal. A hefty crossbow can now be used to take down enemies, including armoured soldiers that your sling's projectiles would merely bounce off of. It takes a couple of seconds to wind up. This is 700-year-old weaponry being operated by a teenager after all, but packs a hell of a punch when unleashed. The crossbow bolts can be combined with materials to cause even greater effect, as can any type of ammunition such as rocks and throwable pots. Some of these alchemical mixtures will be familiar to those who played Innocence: Ignifer and Extinguis, which light and put out flames respectively, as well as some new ones. Launching tar onto a burning flame increases the radius of that light source temporarily, providing a potential solution to one of the game's many puzzles. It also has its uses in combat. Lure enemies into a pool of it before setting them ablaze with a neatly thrown Ignifer. There's over 20 different combinations of material and ammunition to play around with in Requiem, and it's made all the easier to manage them with an improved crafting and weapon wheel. Switching weapons is smooth, and the fact that you now have unlimited rocks to hurl at all times is quite frankly a godsend. It's not just Amicia that has new toys to play with though. Her little brother Hugo is now able to flex his special relationship with France's ongoing rat infestation.
They're coming! I can't. You have to handle it yourself. Are you sure? Do it. Quick.
Borrowing from other stealth action games like Hitman or the Batman Arkham series, an Echo ability allows you to pinpoint enemies through walls at quite long distances. Alongside this, the Imperium ability that allows Hugo to control the rats has been revamped. No longer do you target where you'd like the rats to swarm from a third-person perspective, but instead you take your position inside the pack and hunt down your prey by directly controlling your tidal wave of rodents. It's a much more satisfying way to unleash a horde on your enemies, with the results being quite vicious as rats overwhelm and consume foes so quickly that the echoes of their screams outlive them. The technical limitations of Innocence allowed for 5,000 rats to be seen on screen at any time. With Requiem, those shackles are off, with the tech impressively allowing for more than 300,000 to surround you at any moment. At its core, the stealth combat and environmental puzzle gameplay loop of A Plague Tale Requiem is largely similar to its predecessor, but there are improvements across the board. Requiem allows for a lot more experimentation in its combat situations than Innocence ever did, and its new, much larger arenas only encourage this. Stealth games are at their best when they make the player feel smart and in command of an encounter. The small, often corridor-shaped linear sections of Innocence never really offered this, but some of Requiem's combat locations are cavernous by comparison. There now feels like there are numerous interesting options in each area, rather than only one way to deal with a group of enemies. The influence of The Last of Us was clear to see in Innocence. These larger combat areas and the way you slink around them reminds me heavily of 2020's Part 2. Some of the annoying quirks that can take you out of a stealth game have been smoothed out in Requiem as well. Mercifully, one-hit deaths are no longer inflicted on Amicia outside of specific scenarios, allowing for you to endure a little damage before taking cover and healing. Both passive and lethal routes are offered, and you're encouraged to pick a style too. The new skills upgrade system reacts to the way you play and rewards you for your relevant actions through an invisible XP system. Take a more deadly approach and you'll unlock new combat skills, but lean more into being a silent ghost and you'll be granted new abilities that help you sneak around more efficiently. It's a clever system that makes you think twice about how to approach each scenario, while subconsciously impacting the mindset that your specific Amicia takes through the story.
These look like teeth. It's a two-teeth island.
Outside of combat, the thing that struck me the most was how much more colour and life there is in the world, especially when compared to the largely grey and brown Innocence. The original was already graphically impressive, but Requiem looks downright gorgeous at times. This sequel is set in an area of France where you get to see glimpses of civilization before the plague has had its full impact. One of the locations I saw allowed me to wander the bustling streets full of all the welcome, and some unwelcome, sounds and sights of a butcher's district, while more genuinely pleasant surroundings included rolling fields and a jovial campsite. While I can only presume that this ultimately won't be a happy-go-lucky story of two siblings taking in all the beauty the south of France has to offer, it's very welcome to not constantly feel like you're in the gutter this time around. It doesn't seem all doom and gloom for the Jeroens then, with the variety I saw in environments echoing the improved scope of gameplay options. While I can't shake the feeling that it all seems very familiar and not necessarily the giant leap forward that some may have been expecting, Requiem does at the very least appear to be the refining of an already successful formula. Whether it all comes together to take a playtale to the next level is still to be fully seen, but from the roughly 90 minutes I played, I'm left very hopeful that we're all set for a fun, yet undoubtedly emotionally harrowing time. For more from A Plague Tale, why not check out our review of Innocence, or watch Requiem's latest trailer.